All right, I'm rolling with it. Hey, this is Ham. This is me doing something a little different. I guess I'm going to call this the Hamm-Cast. I did a podcast before with my good friend Brandon, two dudes in a podcast. I just bumped the mic with my hand if you heard anything weird. But I've never tried to do something like this solo. And recently I've just had, I don't know, I feel like maybe I'm just a weird guy who likes to hear myself talk sometimes. I don't know. That's not a good thing, maybe. But I got a lot of thoughts in my head a lot of the time. And I think maybe being able to talk about stuff is a good idea. So what this is, it's just going to be me shooting the shit about things I like. Maybe talk about life sometimes. I don't know if I want to get too, personal or heavy in here. But I just want to talk about, talk to the world, that type of thing. And here on the first episode, what I'm going to be talking about, what's been on my mind a lot is Star Wars, man. A galaxy far, far away. Mando Season 3 just wrapped up, and Star Wars Celebration wasn't that long ago, like a week or two, I think, at this point. However long ago Easter weekend was. But yeah, I just want to talk about things I like, shoot the shit, that type of thing, and hopefully you can join me for this. So yeah, this is Hamm-Cast episode, call it 1, sure. We're not going to do any 0 issues or 0 episodes or anything like that. We'll start off numerical number 1. All right, let's get into it. So Star Wars has been on my mind a lot, especially because of Star Wars Celebration. And Star Wars Celebration and The Mandalorian Season 3 have kind of reinvigorated, I guess, my mind for Star Wars things. And I don't know, my passion for Star Wars is kind of back. Andor made me really like Star Wars, but it made me really like to watch Star Wars and hasn't made me be like, oh my gosh, I love Star Wars. But Mando Season 3, and I think a lot of it isn't just Mando Season 3, because we'll get into my thoughts on Mandalorian Season 3 in a little bit. But I think it was Star Wars Celebration. Just hearing about what they're going to do in the future with Star Wars and certain projects that are coming out. And they released the Ahsoka trailer, and that looks just so good. It just reinvigorated my love for what, I could consider Star Wars as a first love of sorts, something that just, as a child, I became enamored with, and it's not often that you can become, enamored with something or fall back in love with something over and over again. Because one moment you can be like, oh my gosh, this is so down in the dumps. And then the next, it's like, oh, it's like the first day we met. It's a bit of a weird analogy, I guess, but we'll go with it. Star Wars Celebration happened, and they showed the Ahsoka trailer, and that looks pretty cool. And the Ahsoka show is a part of this kind of Disney Plus build-up. I think a lot of people call it the Mandoverse. It officially has a name now at Star Wars Celebration. They called that the Age of the New Republic, or the New Republic era. I don't remember what, but Ahsoka is part of this New Republic era that Mando's a part of, and Book of Boba Fett, that atrocity of a show. But it seems like they're building to a version of Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire. Those books. I think the Thrawn trilogy is it's usually known as. But the Thrawn trilogy for a while, before Disney bought Star Wars, it was almost kind of considered like the episode 7, 8, and 9 of Star Wars. It was just a series of books that picked up after Return of the Jedi. And, it followed our characters from that point forward. And introduced a lot of different people as well, such as the title character Thrawn, Grand Admiral Thrawn, this alien that had worked his way to become Grand Admiral of the Imperial Navy, and his plans and machinations to become the new emperor and take over the galaxy again with a new empire. But, things have changed since that was released, and the Star Wars canon is different. And Thrawn was reintroduced in, I believe, Season 3 of Star Wars Rebels. And then at the end of Season 4, he kind of gets shuffled off into hyperspace by a Purrgil, which is these hyperspace whales, and like the animal whale, like, ocean type shit. And we haven't really heard about him since. And then he was referenced in The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 5, the one with Ahsoka. And now it seems as if he's going to be in the Ahsoka show. And Ahsoka name drops heir to the Empire. She says, I've heard about Thrawn being heir to the Empire. And it would seem like they're building towards a version of that story. I don't know what, because it was a three-part story, and I've only listened to a majority of Heir to the Empire on audiobook. I did not, I don't think why do I say I don't think? I have not listened to or read Dark Forces Rising or The Last Command. But it seems like they're building to a version of that with some new characters. And I think that's pretty cool because Ahsoka, originally wasn't an Heir to the Empire. And Ahsoka is this character that a lot of people, especially my age, grew up and grew to love. And that's going to be cool to see her involved in all that. I hope they don't deviate, I hope they don't just like switch out the cast of that Thrawn trilogy completely. Because the original crew, like Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie, Lando, R2, 3PO, they're the central characters. They're in that. And I hope they don't just try to shuffle them out and replace them with new characters, because I think that would be not only just weird to adapt something without any of the central characters or protagonists from it. And then just, it also feels a little dishonorable to the work of Timothy Zahn. And I can't speak for him, but that's what it feels like to me. But I think those books being held in such a high regard among people who don't like the new Disney stuff and people who do like the new Disney stuff, I think those books being held in such a high regard is a sign to the people who will go on to make this that they shouldn't just completely throw out the original content. And I have faith personally because part of this announcement at Star Wars Celebration was Dave Filoni, the man himself, the man in the hat, is going to be directing a movie, a feature-length film. I mean, good for him, going from Clone Wars to Rebels to Mando and now Ahsoka. That's his show that he's made, and a movie. I mean, what a transition. And his track record with Star Wars is amazing. I think, he respects the mythology of this universe so much. And I think part of that is the years he spent with George Lucas, just almost as his apprentice, per se, in a nerdy type of way. So yeah, I think that is in good hands, hopefully. We'll see when it comes out, but so far, so good. Something I'm really excited about besides the Dave Filoni movie that they announced, another new time era, a new time period completely. They're making a Dawn of the Jedi film which is about like the birth of the Jedi, which I feel like can only, coincide with the birth of the Sith. And this coworker of mine, shout out to Professor Michael T, was talking about, he's a big Star Wars fan as well, and he's read a lot of the books, unlike me. But he was talking about how the Sith was a species before it was like an ideology, and how they could factor in. And that would be cool. But a Dawn of the Jedi film is something I'm here for, because that's just awesome, exploring the origins of like the Jedi and the Force and stuff like that. And the way it's being pitched is as a biblical epic. So something like the Ten Commandments, or if you want to go on a very awesome animated scale, Prince of Egypt, which is a wonderful animated movie. And that movie is actually going to be made by director of Logan, James Mangold, director of Logan and Ford v Ferrari and Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. We don't know how Indiana Jones is going to turn out yet, but we'll see this summer. James Mangold is working on that, and that can only be cool. And I think a Mark, I don't know where, I lost my place, but something good to know about this here. A positive side of this Dawn of the Jedi film is that it's just so far in the past, 25,000 years, actually, before like the first Star Wars movie, A New Hope. It's a mystery to us, There can be new concepts. It's not like someone is coming into the stuff we do know and, kind of futzing with all that and trying to make it their own. It will be, Mangold's own vision and stuff like that. And of course there are, other old media that is no longer canon that does talk about the dawn of the Jedi and the birth of the Jedi and all that. And I feel like a lot of that can be taken into account for this new film, and, aspects probably will. But at the end of the day, I know back when Lucas owned Star Wars, and he was kind of the head of all that, the books and the comic books and stuff like that was all great supplemental material. But at the end of the day, movies or TV shows or animated projects were the final word. So if, like, say a book was written and then a movie contradicted that, the movie is to override the book, which I guess makes the most sense. So yeah, Dawn of the Jedi, that's really cool, and I'm really excited about that. And I think that was a little nice surprise from Star Wars Celebration. Who knows if it gets made? It's only been announced. Star Wars, ever since Disney has taken over, has announced 20 different movies by 20 different people, and half of them just end up going nowhere. Like Rogue Squadron by Patty Jenkins, that's no longer in development. Rian Johnson's supposed to have made a trilogy like 5 times by now. Taika Waititi was announced a few years back to make a film. Apparently Kevin Feige was working on a Star Wars movie at one point, but and whether that's the fault of anybody at Lucasfilm or the people who were announced to work on it or whoever, I don't care. It's just, they've announced a lot of different movies, and it seems like ever since Solo, they've been a little weary to get into the movies, which I think is ridiculous. But anyways, the other new movie they announced at Star Wars Celebration is also for a new time period. 15 years after the rise of Skywalker, that gem of a movie is a new Jedi Order film where Rey is going to be rebuilding the Jedi Order. So, yeah. I don't know how I feel about that, because the sequels were just such a weird, disjointed mess. And before anyone talks about how George Lucas didn't have a plan for the original trilogy, I'm going to stop you right there and say, listen, George Lucas was still involved with every single film. He was still there crafting the story alongside screenwriter Lawrence Kasdan. And if the biggest inconsistencies in in the original trilogy is that in Return of the Jedi, for some reason, Leia says, I don't know, for some reason I've always felt like I have been your sister. And in the former film, kissed Luke to piss off Han. I feel like I can live with that and just be like, girl, behave yourself. I can live with that, you know, but the way the sequel trilogy came out, it was supposed to be three totally different people making three totally different movies, I guess. And it ended up only being two because Colin Trevorrow was not able to. I think he left because of the age-old creative differences. So JJ did episode 9. So JJ left episode 7, you know, in the can. And then Ryan came in. And then JJ came back. And it was just this weird pile of, I don't know, convoluted garbage to me. Rogue One and Solo. Rogue One was really good. Rogue One was awesome. Solo was all right. I think Solo was wild, man. In a good way, I guess. I don't know. I like Solo. It's not, you know, I'm not going to be singing to the choir about it, but Rogue One was great. With 7, 8, and 9, it seems like with each subsequent movie for me of the sequel trilogy, my respect for all of them went down a little more. But, you know, I guess they're sticking to their guns. It's a ballsy move, I'd say, because for about as many people that like those movies, I think there's about the same amount of people that dislike them and stuff like that. So, I don't know. Good for them, I guess, for sticking with it. I don't know. I guess it's their funeral. So yeah. All right. So that was Star Wars Celebration stuff. That's my thoughts on that. Let's talk about Mandalorian Season 3. What about that season, man? Like, is it just me, or can I sum up this season as lackluster? Because it felt like so much could have happened, and maybe even should have happened. But it just kind of didn't. Because, like, I don't know. You get episode 1 and 2. All right, before I proceed any further, I should... Let's preface this, all right? Mandalorian spoilers ahead. You know, I called it lackluster earlier. There's my one-word review for those of you who haven't seen the whole thing. Lackluster. But from this point on, we're going full spoiler talk. Full on, I'll reference plot points and all that good jazz, you know? So tune out now, come back later. Hey, you're back? Awesome. Glad you caught up on that media. Anyways, episode 1 and 2 were very okay. We got the plot, because if you remember in the Book of Boba Fett, Mando kind of gets excommunicated from his little culty group, who for some reason we're still just going with. We're still just like, yeah, I guess they're cool. It's like, they're a cult, and they kind of have put religious trauma onto Mando. And it's like, you know, I get it. He's taken a creed and everything, but I don't know. This season, they kind of, you know, the Mando's little Orthodox church and Bo-Katan's little, you know, New Age church. They come together and they become buddies. So I guess it's good in the end. But episode 1 and 2 of this new season kind of very much, they pick up where they left Mando in the Book of Boba Fett. You know, Grogu's back for some frickin' reason. And he wants to redeem himself now since he got excommunicated. He wants to, you know, walk the way again. which to me kind of lessens the impact of him taking off his helmet in that finale of Mandalorian Season 2 to show Grogu his son now. He officially adopts Grogu this season. It kind of takes away, for me, him taking off his helmet. Not only to, let that Imperial machine scan his face in Season 2 so he can go and get Grogu, but so he can say goodbye to Grogu. I think it lessens the impact of that. Him being like, I'm going to go back to helmet on. Because obviously Grogu wanted to see the face of like a man who's helped raise him and the man who will continue to raise him now after this season, which we'll talk about the ending because the ending's something. But episode 1 and 2 of this season, he's trying to, redeem himself, free himself of these transgressions or sins per se. And, we get to episode 1, he's like, hey, armorer, I'm going to go do this. She's like, all right, have fun. Yeah, helmet taken off, no gooder. No goodnick. So then he heads over to Navarro, hits up Grief Karga, is like, what's up, my man? I need a droid who can help me out, and I only trust IG-11. And they try to fix up IG-11. Doesn't work out. And then there's some pirate stuff, and Mando just shoots the shit out of some pirates, and it's really funny. And then Mando's like, okay, I'm going to go somewhere else for a droid. And while leaving Navarro, pirates try to shoot his ass, and he somehow is like Batman in his little in one starfighter that he has now. Sounds like he took the muffler out of that thing too. That's so funny. But he somehow just Batmans his way through a meteor field, chased by pirates, and like kills them all but one, and then he gets the hell out of Dodge. So he heads to Tatooine and talks to the Tatooine hangar bay lady. I forget what her name is. Oh man, I don't know. Pellis, something like that. Some goofy ass Star Wars name. And then he gets an astromech there, and that astromech is R5-D4, also known as the droid with a bad motivator from A New Hope. So, yeah, that guy is just been on Tatooine since New Hope, and now he's chilling with Mando. So that's cool. And then he goes to Bo-Katan at the end of episode 1, is like, I'm going to Mandalore, and she's like, all right, good luck. And he goes, and then some bad shit happens. And Grogu goes and does some sick-ass maneuvers in his little hover chair, goes and gets Bo-Katan. She saves Mando. Everything's great. And then he goes, and he's like, he redeems himself by going into the living waters of Mandalore, and that's cool. But apparently the ground caved in the little lake down there, and he almost drowns himself like a dummy. It's not his fault. You couldn't see through that damn water. It's so dark down there. Bo-Katan saves his life and sees the mythosaur. And from here is where the season gets really just topsy-turvy for me. Because those first 2 episodes, it's like, okay, Mando's redeeming himself. And then, boom, Bo-Katan sees the mythosaur, and they emphasized in the recap for like where Mando's been, since season 2, and the recap from episode 1 to episode 2 of this season of Mandalorian, they emphasize something that the armorer was talking about in Book of Boba Fett about, the mythosaur will rise and the leader of Mandalore, blah, 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 will come back and the Mandalore restore its glory. So at the end of episode 2, Bo-Katan straight up sees the mythosaur, so it's like, oh, shit. I guess the Mandalore prophecy's happening this season. And then episode 3 hits, and it's like, all right, we're right back in it, We're right back in it. and they get off of Mandalore, and they're going back to Bo-Katan's like little castle on a moon nearby, and a bunch of just TIE interceptors come out of nowhere, and you get this really badass, air-to-air fight. And then Bo-Katan's castle gets blown up by bombers, and there's just too many damn fighters near. And they have to retreat, and they're going back to the Mandalorian convert. And then we cut to an entirely different thing going on in the New Republic. We cut to Coruscant, which it's always cool when we can see Coruscant. But the way this episode, it's like main plot shit, background shit, main plot shit. It's background shit sandwiched between two sections of like main plot going on, and it just doesn't work for me this way because I like the background shit that's going on. It's really interesting. It builds the world out a little more, and it's just cool. But it's just so wedged in there. It's like, square peg, round hole, almost. And that episode was a little wonky, even though I like the background stuff. I'd probably like the background stuff a little more if the rest of the season kind of like just stuck to it, So yeah, that's where I'm at. Episode 4 comes around, and for some reason this season, like, I don't know, man. We get another like kill a giant animal. This season has a lot of just fucking giant Star Wars animals in it. It's so weird. Because it's like every time we're getting somewhere, it's like a giant animal comes out of nowhere and the Mandalorians have to fight it. And I'm like, okay. I guess every damn place a Mandalorian goes, kaiju just are like, shit, I gotta kill these guys. I gotta eat these guys. Okay. Which this episode does have story implications, as the big Mandalorian, Paz Vizsla, gains respect for our main Mando, Din Djarin, because Din saves his son, and Bo-Katan also leads this covert of Mandalorians on a mission. So Bo is stepping up in a leadership position, and Din earns the respect of the big boy Mandalorian, Paz. So there's story implications, but it's as the way the episode goes, it's just a damn kaiju episode. It's just one of those random ass adventures, which in season 1, the random ass adventures were charming. Then at the end of season 1, he gets the quest, take Grogu to his people, the Jedi. And then in season 2, the through line of that season is Mando getting Grogu to his people. Episode 2 and episode 7 kind of step out of the path, but the end goal is still the same in both of those episodes. Get to where we need to be. Anyways, that's a little aside. That's a little aside to myself, I guess. But to you too, because I guess you're listening. So episode 5 comes around, and episode 5 is fucking metal as shit. So those pirates from earlier decide, this Navarro planet, we're going to blow it the hell up. So they roll in, and they take over the main town of Navarro, and all the people evacuate, and they're just blowing it to hell. So Grief Karga goes to the New Republic, and there's this pilot played by this guy who's in a popular sitcom called Kim's Convenience. I've never personally seen it. I think I've seen clips on like Instagram or TikTok, but cool guy. I actually found out that he collects he likes collectibles and stuff on YouTube, and he was like posting him looking for them, and I was like, oh, that's cool, because I do that too. But the New Republic pilot, who's like always running into Mando, Carson Teva, he get to see like this cool New Republic fighter pilot bar. It's so cool. And then you get a cameo from Star Wars Rebel character Zeb Orrelios, and that's really cool. So it's like, Zeb's doing like Outer Rim fighter work, patrolling the galaxy. That's cool to see. So this guy goes to Coruscant and is like, hey, I need to requisition forces to go help these people on this Outer Rim planet. And then a character from earlier who was revealed to be like an Imperial plant in the New Republic is like, nah, fuck that planet. We should teach them a lesson about how they haven't signed a deal with the New Republic. And Carson's like, shut the fuck up, bitch. And for some reason, the New Republic, like, I don't know, requisitions officer is just like, I don't know, man, you're on your own on this one. It's like, well, shit. So Carson's like, I'm always running into that damn Mandalorian. You know what? I'm going to track him down, get him to do it. So apparently R5-D4 at one point was a rebellion agent. So he tracks down Mando by R5, gets there, and all the Mandalorians are like, let's kill this fucking guy. And Mando's like, nah, he cut me a break a few times, man. He's chill. And they're all like, all right, Mando, I guess so. He's like, hey, Navarro's under attack. You need to help. And Mando's like, all right, guys, can we do this? And then big boy Mando Paz gets up, and you think he's about to be like, nah, fuck all that. And then he makes like this full 380, and he's like, we're going to do this because we're Mandalorians. We're going to fight and die because it is the way. And you're like, hell yeah. And then Bo-Katan's all talking like, we're going to be a tight tactical military unit. And then they go to Navarro, and like Mando goes in with his like, you know, the ship that he took the muffler off of, and he's fighting like pirate fighters in the air. And that's real cool. And Bo's in her like gauntlet fighter, and she hits the thing, and it's like they all drop in with jetpacks. It's so cool. They can put as many of those scenes. Excuse me, Jesus. That was nasty. Sorry, guys. They can put as many of those scenes with the Mandalorians dropping out of the gauntlet fighter as they want, because they're so badass. Anyways, they liberate the town, they kill the shit out of the pirates, one gets away, and I'm pretty sure he's going to pop up in a Star Wars show called Skeleton Crew, because he was featured in the trailer, or someone who has a striking resemblance to him was featured in the trailer that was shown only at Celebration. And then the Mandos, Grief Karga's like, hey, thanks for liberating the town. You can set up camp here if you want. And then at the end of the episode, the armor is like, Bo-Katan, you can walk both worlds for some reason. I don't know. She's special, I guess. I guess she's the leader of Mandalore. I don't hate it. You know, she was before. Why not again? The only thing I don't like is that the armorer, for some reason, is like, my clan is the way it is, but you don't have to wear a helmet. I don't know. For some reason, the armorer is just like giving out special passes to people this season. I don't know. She's just something else. Anyways, now the goal is to unite the Mandalorians and take back Mandalore, which is like, shit, right. That's what we were supposed to be doing. Okay, cool. 3 episodes left of the season. We're going to unite them in the next one and go to Mandalore. No, we go to a fucking planet to unite them, and then Jack Black and Lizzo show up. I don't know why. I don't think stunt casting really works for Star Wars. Because, like, when someone shows up in a cameo, I'm more like, why are they here? Instead of, oh, hey, it's Jack Black or Lizzo. Oh, and Doc Brown, Christopher Lloyd, shows up. And, like, I don't know. It felt like a random-ass episode of the Clone Wars, but the difference is Clone Wars had, like, 20-something episodes a season, and this had 8. So you're kind of sitting there like, come on, let's get this over with. So they unite the Mandalorians, and then, you know, Bo-Katan's group is all about who has the Darksaber. That's who we follow. So Din is in possession of the Darksaber, and he finds some sort of loophole and gives it to Bo-Katan cool. He never wanted it in the first place. It would have been cool to see him become like the reluctant leader of Mandalore. Maybe they still want to do that. They're just like, nah, he's got places to do and people to be and all that first, and then maybe eventually. I think the eventual play is that Grogu will become the like ruler of Mandalore many years later, and he'll be like the next Jedi Mandalorian or something. That's what it seems they've set up for him. I don't know. He's just like a baby, and he's going to live for like 900 years. So we get that stupid ass Jack Black Lizzo episode when I wish it would have just been, you go there, you get those, and we get an episode where the two clans finally like get together, and you know, you go to Mandalore at the end of that episode, and that's how that ends. And then the next episode is all about like Mandalore shit, all that. And then the next episode after that Jack Black and Lizzo episode was a real like upper, because it was all plot. You get like you get a reveal that Moff Gideon is talking to this thing called the Shadow Council, which is made up of a bunch of Imperial remnants. And like they introduce Captain Palaeon from the Thrawn books in that scene, and it's awesome. They also show Hux's dad, Hux from the sequel trilogy. They show his father, which I was like, okay, cool. Don't care about those movies, but you know, that's his dad. Cool. And then the Mandos go back to Mandalore, and that's all cool. And that episode was really good. And now we get to the finale, right? You know, at the end of that last episode, Paz dies, saving the other Mandalorians, and Din is captured. And the Mandalorians are left to regroup. So, you know, in between episodes, I'm thinking like, oh shit, Boba Fett's gonna show up probably. You know, they're gonna call him in. He's gonna wreck some fools. They're gonna get Mando back, all that. And you know, you can only go up from that episode, but somehow they don't. They just plateau in the next. It's not even like it goes down for me, because I didn't hate the finale. It was just like, I don't know. I think you guys could have gone out with a bigger bang. I don't know what they needed. Either they needed more time or more money or something, or they just finally just gave up, because it feels like ever since the end of Mando season 2, they haven't been able to do everything they originally wanted to do in the show, which sucks for them. Because this whole season, Grogu has just kind of been in the background doing shit. So it's felt like he wasn't even supposed to be there up until a certain point. So yeah. The finale was just kind of meh. Just a little meh. Just all right. So yeah. I think Moff Gideon's dead. Everybody's talking about it was a clone because he created clones. But the ending shot of this season very much feels like there could be a next season of Mandalorian, but there could not. I feel like maybe Jon Favreau's just a little fucking tired of it, because ever since Mando season 2, it's felt like the plans he created have had to been shuffled so many times, especially in Book of Boba Fett. Book of Boba Fett came out a year after it was shot, filmed, edited, everything within a year after the close of Mandalorian season 2. That is a fast turnaround. And it fucking shows, because that show felt so slashed together. It felt so slapped together so fast. And Grogu, for some reason, returns to Mando in that show. And to me, that just felt like some exec at Lucasfilm or Disney was like, no. You don't understand. We make so much money off of that little green bastard. He has to be back with Mandalorian. And it was like, either he goes back or all of it gets shit canned or something like that. So it was like, okay, we'll fucking send him back. Even though he was probably going to go back eventually, they just wanted to tell a damn story like you do, like you're supposed to do with this shit. But, some executive was like, well, I'm creative enough. And it's like, no, you're fucking not. Anyways, yeah, so could this be the end of The Mandalorian forever? Jon Favreau has said season 4 is already completed in the writing process. It also at the end of the season, Mando does not just kind of stay. He does not stay on Mandalore. That's kind of all wrapped up. His clan, Bo-Katan's clan, are living and rebuilding Mandalore together. He goes and meets Carson and is like, hey, I want to do contract work for the New Republic. So to me, this is going to be a reworking of that show that was announced, Rangers of the New Republic, because that show was supposed to heavily feature Cara Dune, who was played by Gina Carano, who decided to say some stupid ass shit on the internet, and got shit canned. Whether you agree with that or not, it happened, and the show was canceled. God. So I think what they're going to do is rework that, and Mando is going to go on that. So it's him and Grogu are living on a nice little house in Navarro. He officially adopts Grogu, so he's officially Daddy Mando now. So yeah, I don't know. I like where Mando is at the end of the season. It's just getting him there was a little, I don't know. It just felt so weird. So if there is a Mando season 4, I hope it is much better. I think you can only go up from here, personally. But I've been proven wrong before with other things. So yeah, it's Mando season 3, rather lackluster, I believe. I don't hate it. I don't think it's as bad as Book of Boba Fett or Obi-Wan, which were 2 shows that felt like they just fucking shit them out real fast because content needed to be on Disney Plus. This did feel a whole lot better than those 2, but it was nowhere near as good as season 1 or 2 of Mandalorian. And I don't think it quite reached the levels of the show that preceded it, Andor, either. Andor was amazing. It knocked my socks off. Watch that if you have not. It goes so fucking hard. Yeah, that was my thoughts on Mando Season 3. I'm going to end this off with a fun little segment, something I love to do. I collect toys. I collect Marvel action figures, I collect Star Wars action figures, and I collect this other independent line named Action Force. I also like to buy just random nerdy shit, It's just, the bug bit me as a child, and I do that now. So I want to end this off with figures I want to see from The Mandalorian Season 3. All right, I got a little list right here. Things I'd like to see from Mando Season 3 in figure form, specifically Star Wars The Black Series. Those figures have gotten a lot better in recent years. The Armorer gets an upgrade. She has her own jetpack this season, so I'd love to see that. It was really cool to see her flying around in the finale, just smacking the fucking shit out of Imperial Super Commandos with her hammer. So the Armorer with jetpack, that'd be lovely to have in figure form. An updated Heavy Mandalorian, because the original release was based off of concept art. And, concept art is not always going to be adapted strictly to screen. And there's a few changes in his costume. And he didn't even come with his knife that was featured many times this season. So I'd love an updated Heavy Mando. Now you can print the name Paz Vizsla on it. Give him his proper name. The Weary Mandos. The Weary Mandos pop up in episode 7 of the series and are featured in episode 8 as well. The Weary Mandos are Mandalorians who survived the destruction of Mandalore and have just kind of been hanging on by a thread the whole time. Their armor is very road worn. They're missing pieces, and it's all patched together. They're wearing pieces that are even broken. Fun. Two of the actors I recognized. One was Admiral Warlock from Top Gun Maverick, and the other was Skinny Pete from Breaking Bad. So, Skinny Pete from Meth Head to Mandalorian. I'd love to see specifically the kind of leader of that group who played Admiral Warlock in Top Gun Maverick and the leader of these weary Mandos. And, of course, I want a fucking Skinny Pete Mandalorian. Who wouldn't? And fun fact about Skinny Pete Mando, one of his shoulder pieces is made out of the faceplate of a super battle droid. So that's cool as shit. Do a 2-pack of them. That'd be cool. Of the leader and Skinny Pete. Imperial Super Commandos. We get to see an updated design of Imperial Super Commandos. At least that's what I'm calling them. Moff Gideon never specified what kind of Imperial unit they were, but I'm calling them Imperial Super Commandos. They get updated. They look like a mix between Mandalorians and First Order Stormtroopers. And they looked really cool, and I'd love to get some of those. Moff Gideon gets a new outfit. He shaved his mustache. His glorious mustache is gone, and he builds a dark trooper suit for himself that is Mandalorian themed, and it was that shit was fucking cool. And he maintained his cape. He has a cape on while being a fucking villainous bastard. And the last figure I would like to see from this season of The Mandalorian is the Praetorian Guards, those red bastards from The Last Jedi who have a very terribly staged and choreographed fight scene that upon first viewing looks cool, but then you look a little further and you're like, oh, they could have, if they just would have fought together, they would have won. But it just wasn't that well choreographed, and they kind of looked shitty in The Last Jedi. But I'm also not that privy to the designs of the sequel trilogy either. I'm not that fond of them. But they get a cool reintroduction here. They are all uniform. The only thing differentiating them is their weapons, and they look cool as shit. So yeah. Yeah, that's the last figure I'd like to see from Mando Season 3. And I guess this is the end of Hamm-Cast Season 1. Honestly, I went longer than I thought I would. But if you ask, I don't know. If you ask certain people, I could probably talk for freaking hours on this shit. So, yeah, hey, thank you for joining me for this thing that I just thought I'd do on a whim. I don't know how annual this is going to be, but here we are at the end of Hamm-Cast Episode 1. All right, treat yourself well. Don't do bad things. Love yourself, man. Love the people around you. Seize the good times. Just, yeah, I'll end it off there. I don't know how to end this off, so it'll probably be a random rambling every time. All right. See ya.